What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to basketball, and more importantly, welcome back to our season preview series. This is a series where I'm breaking down all 30 NBA teams before the start of the regular season, and now it's kind of the dead point in the basketball calendar. Nobody really cares about basketball. They're not looking into it, but if you're a basketball sweat like me, you're trying to get ready for the basketball season. It's really not that far away. Training camp's just around the corner. You're trying to get ready for your favorite team and all the other teams around the NBA, and that's what I'm here to help you with today. So, in this video, we've got the Charlotte Hornets, who are in a really interesting spot in their organization at this point. But in this video, we're going to cover what things looked like last season, set some goals for the team, talk about what their offseason looked like. It was a busy one. Do a complete roster breakdown where we talk about salary, options, draft pick. We'll make some mock trades. We'll go through rotation and lineup ideas. And then finally, we'll finish off with the standings prediction at the very end. But before we get into all of that, make sure that you guys like, subscribe, and comment. I've responded to every single comment to my YouTube channel up to this point, and I intend to keep on doing so. Again, kind of the boring time in the basketball season, so these videos aren't getting like the most views in the world. I'm really just doing this for the basketball sweats out there, but there's so many other season previews for you guys to go watch at this point. There's actually probably 4 more than you even see on the screen right now because I do pre-record this stuff. But yeah, feel free to go look into all the other ones. They're a lot of fun and they'll get you ready for the start of the season. But anyway, let's talk about the Hornets. And that brings us back here to our season preview spreadsheet. For those of you new to the channel, basically I build these spreadsheets to kind of help articulate and visualize the stories that I'm trying to tell here on YouTube. And you can actually get access to this spreadsheet if you want. It's really, really simple. All you have to do is go down into the description of this video, click the link to join my Discord. It's completely free. And if you hop on the announcements channel, you'll see a download link for the spreadsheet there. I'm updating it every day as I kind of go throughout the teams myself. So just come back whenever you need the most up-to-date version. But anyway, with all that being said, let's talk about Charlotte. We always go over to this intro tab first just to kind of, review what the season looked like last year for a team and to give a little bit of context, but then we'll also use it to talk about some goals for the team. So the Hornets last year, it wasn't a good season. It wasn't a good season for a couple different aspects, right? But let's take even a step further back and take a look at this franchise, right? The Charlotte Hornets, if you guys have been watching my channel for any amount of time, they're known around the NBA as one of the poverty franchises. It's just a franchise where nobody has any sort of success when they go there, right? It's just not, it just hasn't been run well for a long time. Honestly, guys get in trouble there more often than not. They don't win any games. It's just a place where they just kind of spiral into nonsense for forever, right? That's just kind of how it's been. I believe, was it Paul George even that was kind of like critiquing the Hornets on his podcast, which some people were offended by, but he wasn't incorrect either. Like, that team just doesn't win. They never win. What are you supposed to do there? You just lose all the time. You never learn how to win basketball games. It is how it is. But Charlotte Hornets fans, before you get into your comment section and start going, AVC, it's different now. First of all, fuck you. No, it's not yet. But it might be. It might be. We need more evidence to suggest, but there's a new ownership group in Charlotte, relatively new, right? And they've got new people kind of in charge around Charlotte. And we observed last offseason on the AVC basketball channel, we were like, hey, this team's actually like making like some solid moves, and they're being surprisingly active with things. Normally they just kind of sit there and die, but they're like doing all the right things right now. So what's going on? And we're like, okay, new group in play, right? And they go into this season in a really interesting spot. This new ownership and like a management team took over during what was considered a rebuild for the Hornets previously. They had just gotten guys like LaMelo Ball, Brandon Miller, right? And they kind of inherited this rebuild. So they didn't actually pick any of the people they were rebuilding. And so they're like, okay, this is a weird time to join a team. So we're kind of looking around, and I guess we're just kind of in an evaluation phase. They're kind of just sitting, watching all of these guys and being like, okay, which ones do we actually want, right? Which is completely reasonable to do. So they're not like necessarily buying in on things. They're not necessarily tanking anymore or anything. They're just kind of evaluating right now, which I think is very appropriate for this team to do. So they're watching guys like LaMelo Ball, Brandon Miller all last season, and both of them just continue to get hurt all the time. And honestly, like, all of their major players were injured last season significantly, which is really, really unfortunate to see. There were so many injuries on this team, and the record reflects it. This team wasn't going to be good most likely, but with the injuries to all their best players, there was no shot of them being good at basketball just all around. So now they find themselves kind of in like year like 2 or 3 of kind of like watching things now. And I think that this is the point. This is going to be the year where we're going to watch a little bit more, and then some decisions are going to need to be made, right? That's kind of where we're at. So last season, 19-63, very, very bad team, 14 seed in the East, so second worst overall. Franchise status, I've still got them as rebuilding right now. What does that mean? Well, we've got a couple different categories in this series to kind of talk about franchise status. We've got selling teams. Those are teams actively trying to blow things up, like they're trying to restart things. You have rebuilding teams, teams that are kind of looking for those core building blocks to kind of build their team around. Growing teams mean that they have found those building blocks already, and they're kind of growing up with these young guys trying to become a contender. And then you've got the contending teams who are obviously trying to win a championship, and then you got the who the fuck knows category. There's always a couple teams that fall into that, and that is not where you'd want to be. You'd much rather be in any of these 4 here. And now, this team is probably a little bit in the selling category as well, potentially, right? So again, this team took over in the middle of a rebuild already that they didn't start. And so they're looking around trying to figure out what they're doing with their guys. Mostly, I would say they're in a rebuild. They're trying to figure out who those kind of core pieces are, and they just might be in it for a little bit longer than Hornets fans maybe want them to be, right? But in the sake of doing things the correct way, I think that that's kind of how you have to be. You have to be an evaluating team kind of looking around this year. And that kind of brings us to our goals for this season. The first one, figure out the franchise status. And I noted it's okay to not know right now, right? So maybe you play this season and all your young guys are starting to click. Maybe they're healthy, it's looking good. Maybe you're a play-in team or something. Then maybe you're like, okay, maybe we do have some of our pieces in place. Maybe LaMelo Ball, Brandon Miller, and Con Knipple. That's it. We're feeling pretty good about this. So let's start kind of growing with this team or whatever. But I would have to assume more likely than not they're going to move on from some of these other young pieces that are from other regimes or something, or maybe they should, more so is how I should say it. I shouldn't anticipate that they will, because those aren't easy decisions to make ever, but I think that after this year, they kind of have to pick a direction, because if we're just going to hit like rebuild again, maybe let's become a selling team for like an off season and then just go right back into rebuilding, right? Like let's sell off a couple things and do the rebuild the right way then, which I think is totally fine. In the meantime, I'm going to say another goal, continue to gain assets. This team has done a really good job of gaining assets over the past like year and a half. And here's my thing, right? So your boy works within the NBA, right? Like he kind of works within these spaces. He talks to people here and there. It's a cool gig, right? I do it via my business or whatever, but one thing that I've learned about this new Hornets organization is they're very secretive. They do not let much information get out, and honestly, they try to throw a lot of smoke screens at people too, which is very deceptive and very annoying to deal with. But I will also say it's cool that the Charlotte Hornets are at the table playing the game now, right? Because for a while they just weren't. And so we're like, okay, Charlotte, they've come to play. And like I said, they've been making all these little moves. And they're like, all right, yeah, give me this. Let me hold some of your assets for you or whatever in order to do that, which good for them. That's the proper rebuilding strategy. Final goal, it's pretty simple. All these are pretty simple for this year. Just get the young guys on the court. Like, let's figure out what we got, right? We have to figure out what direction we're going as a franchise. And in order to do that, we got to get some of these young fellas on the basketball court and figure out what we're doing with them. So pretty simple goals this year. I just hope that we keep these in mind as we go throughout the rest of this video, so that we can kind of understand why I'm talking about some of the things that I am. But with all that being said, let's talk about what their offseason looked like, because it was a busy one. Alrighty, off-season tab. If you guys watched my series at all last year, you're pretty familiar with this tab. Basically, I break the off-season down into 3 different sections. We've got drafted players, so players that were drafted by the team this last year that are going to be on the full-time roster, presumably. Player departures, guys that were on the full-time roster at the end of last season that will no longer be on the team this year. And then players brought in. These are new faces on the team if you're a fan. You got to get used to these guys because they were brought in via free agency or they were traded for or something like that, and they will be on the full-time roster this year. Let's start off with the draft. This team took a very interesting approach in the draft. What did the Hornets have? The Hornets had the 4th pick this year. Yeah, the 4th pick. And this draft was seen as one where there were 4 kind of elite talents at the top of the draft, right? It was Cooper Flagg, Dylan Harper, VJ Edgecombe, Ace Bailey. Like, these are 4 guys that a lot of people think have like superstar potential, which is really rare in a draft. So you got a top 4 pick. That's awesome. all the Ace Bailey stuff happens. He says he doesn't want to go to Charlotte. Some teams heeded that warning and said, okay, bet, we won't take him. Other teams did, Utah Jazz, which I think good for you. Tell him to just shut up and come over here, which he's doing so far, which is great. So instead, Charlotte went with Con Knipple out of Duke, 6'7" guard forward, however you kind of want to place him. And by the way, if you guys want breakdowns on these players, I told you guys, like, I work with in like the NBA. One of the things my company does is we do like draft evaluation. I basically become a scout for a team, and I've done that for the past couple seasons now. And I do have little breakdowns on my channel, so you can go learn about those other prospects. So if you want to learn about Con Knipple or even Liam McNeely, they're both in this playlist here for you guys to go and watch. Those videos were really successful this year. It was really cool, and I'll definitely be doing those again this next year, even though they got demonetized almost every single time. But anyway, Con Knipple. First thing you got to know about him, dude works his ass off. He's definitely kind of a blue-collar player, not just because he played for Duke or whatever. Known for his shooting. He should be a good shooter right away, and we think defensively he projects out pretty well just because of like his length, his strength, and his effort that he gives, and he's a pretty solid athlete overall. Now, he did like handle the ball a lot more in college, but I don't think it's NBA level good, and this team has plenty of other ball handlers anyway. I think he's going to have a lot more success if he doesn't have the ball as much, and he's just more so working as like an off-ball spacer that can maybe become a nice 3-and-D guy for you overall. So as much as I'd like to say that they had a perfect draft with a 4th overall pick, I still think they should have gone with like an Ace Bailey talent-wise. But what I can say is I know that this team was in a position where for a long, long time, they had a lot of, we'll say, not so great personalities on the Charlotte Hornets, right? And so they're like, hey, like this new regime comes in, they're like, look, y'all, we're never going to win any games if we got all these dudes out here that are just kind of doing nonsense off the court, right? So maybe they saw the Ace Bailey stuff and they go, shit, man, I can't risk it. I can't risk it. Let's go with Con. Con's a good player. We just trust him a little bit more to be a little more stable presence on the team. Totally get that. I totally get that. And you know what? Hats off to you. I always have the narcissism as a former coach to say I can correct everybody, but I also understand that you just don't want to take your chances at this point. So something to be said about that. And then the team traded for another late first-round pick and ended up taking Liam McNeely, another freshman out of UConn, who they look surprisingly similar. And you know what? They do similar shit. But Liam McNeely out of UConn was kind of seen as like a lottery pick for most of the year. And if you're watching my channel at all, we kind of said like, nah, Liam's gonna fall. He's gonna fall, and there's kind of a reason for it. He was one of the top like freshmen coming in this year. He's known to be kind of a lockdown shooter at like 6'7", 6'8", hopefully kind of a 3-and-D guy. Not the most athletic person in the world, but he shot like shit this last year. But when you go a little bit deeper, you find that it's just, no, he just can't shoot off the dribble. Like, he just can't really, like, use the basketball and go create offense for himself. Like, on catch-and-shoot opportunities, he was pretty lethal, actually. So, again, just do that with him and you should be good. He projects to be a guy that could be a solid rebounder for his position. Defensively, he'll always have a few questions because he's not the most athletic, but he's got a big build, and I think he can put a lot of muscle on. So, solid prospect all around. It's a deep draft class, right? And then we have 2 second-round picks that are going to be on the full-time roster as well. We have Sion James, also out of Duke. Kind of a, what do we even call this guy? Like a Swiss Army knife Bruce Brown type of build, where it's like, yeah, you could see him playing a bunch of different positions. He's really bulky. He sometimes initiates some offense. Not exactly like a great outside shooter, but like he's capable. Defensively, he's all right, but he's maybe a little bit undersized. So, kind of a project, right? Kind of a project, but should come in, should be a smart guy that just knows where to be on the basketball court, so we'll see what he ends up turning into. And then we have Ryan Kalkbrenner out of, Creighton. Thank you very much, AVC, for remembering things. It's early. It's early in the morning. Give me a break. But Ryan Kalkbrenner, one of the few bigs on this roster, we'll talk about that later, comes in as what was one of the better shot blockers in college basketball, was able to step out and hit an outside shot every once in a while. I have hesitations as to whether or not he's going to work out at an NBA level, but look, he's a second-round pick, right? Like, only, 5% of them get, like, a second contract anyway, so we're giving it a shot, right? And he's going to have a chance to show his stuff because this team is desperate for big men, so there you go. Player departures, the first one. Mark Williams. We talked a little bit about deception in this video and what this franchise is doing. And again, that's not necessarily a bad thing, YouTube comments, all right? It's just a thing, right? And I know this is where all the basketball conspiracy theorists come out about things, but we'll talk about it. So Mark Williams at one point last year was traded. He was traded to the Los Angeles Lakers for Dalton Knecht and some picks. And people were like, whoa, Mark Williams got traded. Mark Williams is a pretty good young basketball player. Huge guy, can block a lot of shots, like really dangerous around the rim because he's got a longer standing reach than Wemby, and he's got like, he's a good athlete, but often injured. And so all of a sudden he gets traded to the Lakers, and we're like, oh wow, really interesting. And during that trade negotiation, the Lakers made sure that they put an injury provision in, which basically says like, hey, when we get access to this player, we're going to have a panel of doctors do a physical on him and basically grade him on how well they think his body is going to hold up over like the next like coming years or whatever. And if that score falls under a certain threshold, they have the right to veto the trade, right? And Mark Williams comes in and he doesn't do well. That physical does not go very well. These doctors are telling the Lakers, no, we don't think his body's going to hold up. That doesn't mean it can't. We're very skeptical that it is. And he's had a lot of injury problems already. So they call up the Hornets and they're like, hey, what's going on? And the Hornets like, no, he's in perfect health. He's in perfect health. We looked, we checked. And the Lakers like, no, fuck you, sending him back. Give us our shit back or whatever. And so Mark Williams gets sent back to Charlotte, which was kind of a controversy. And again, people put on like the conspiracy theory hats, like, oh, these doctors, like they're working for the Lakers and they're doing all this. First of all, they're doctors, all right. They have to do like their job. That's their oath or whatever. And why this is like, here's my thing. If you're like a basketball conspiracy theorist, one of those motherfuckers that thinks like the draft lottery is rigged and like shit like this is like somehow some sort of conspiracy. What is it like to be like that fucking stupid and just like walking around all the time? You're just like a husk of water that like doesn't have like any critical thinking skills whatsoever. Like, get a fucking hobby. Like, stop thinking about things so much. But basically, like, why would the Lakers want to go through all of this? What would be the fucking point? They wanted a center, and they were like, fuck, you told us we had a center, now this guy's not gonna fucking make it. No, we want our draft picks back, or whatever. So the Hornets basically try to say, like, no, he's completely healthy, or whatever. No, it's completely fine, and we're happy to have Mark Williams back. And they traded him, like, as soon as they could this offseason. They didn't want him around. It was obviously an awkward situation. They had to move him. He was an interesting young prospect, but they clearly knew as well that his body's not holding up, and they already tried to flip him out of nowhere, and now he got moved to the Suns. Long explanation, but it was a big part of the offseason. Josh Okogie here. And by the way, the Mark Williams deal was a part of Liam McNeely coming over. The Hornets also got a first-round pick for it, so not bad. Josh Okogie was a fun guy that they acquired in the middle of last season. Brought a lot of intensity and defense to the group. Missed a lot of transition layups for whatever reason. He really loved to get out in transition and blow layups. That's just one of the things I remember about Josh Okogie this last year. But I love the energy that he plays with. He got a new contract with Houston, I believe he's with Houston now, and so you'll probably miss him. You like the culture and energy he brings, but his guaranteed money was too much, and his non-guaranteed salary was too much for them to just not let him go. So they moved on from him. Yusuf Nurkic, another guy that they got via trade this last season, and the Yusuf Nurkic thing was really interesting. Again, this team didn't have much. It doesn't have much in terms of center play this year, but the Utah Jazz called up the Charlotte Hornets at one point this offseason, and they're like, hey, we want Yusuf Nurkic. And the Hornets were like, okay, cool, how are we going to make this happen? And I don't know if this is exactly how it went down, but somehow the negotiations ended up with, okay, we'll give you Colin Sexton and a draft pick for Yusuf Nurkic. And I just imagine the Hornets people on the other end being like, okay, we get the better player, he's cheaper, and we get a draft pick? I don't know. Yeah, no, we'll take it. We'll take it. So good on the Hornets for just taking advantage of one of the weirdest trades this offseason. I don't know what the Jazz's plan is for Nurkic or whatever. Maybe they just really think they can flip him at some point this year because people need centers more. I don't know. But you got Colin Sexton out of it for you got paid to take a better basketball player and save money. So good for you. Seth Curry, he's no longer on the team as well. Just kind of been a nice veteran presence for the team. Obviously, Dell played there. It's been cool to kind of see him donning the number and everything, but we'll see if Seth Curry gets picked up at all. And then Taj Gibson, this was the moment where we knew that this Hornets team might, and I'll keep saying might, you need more evidence than just like 1 year to be able to say this team's heading in a better direction. But when they signed Taj Gibson last year, that was a sign like, okay, This organization knows what the fuck it's doing. This is a guy that's not going to play much basketball for you. He ended up doing it because of injuries. But we need like just a competent like bench vet that's going to help like steer our young guys in the right direction. And they went out and made that move. So credit to them. But yeah, he most likely, did Taj retire yet? I don't know if he's retired yet. But anyway, players brought in new guys on the team. I know this is a long off season. First one, Colin Sexton. Like I said, you got him for free. Colin Sexton is an amazing offensive basketball player. He can go get buckets for you. He will distribute, he will play make. Defensively, he is one of the worst in the NBA. It's not because of a lack of effort. Dude just does not know where to be on the basketball court at all times. Gambles on a lot of things, just kind of out of place constantly. So we'll see how that goes. But you just got this basketball player for free. Maybe you flip him at some point because somebody would want Colin Sexton, I feel like. You went and signed Spencer Dinwiddie. There's a lot of guards on this team, but you went and got good veteran player, right, to kind of put at the end of your bench, make sure things are good. Great job. You're following the AVC rebuilding guide. Spencer Dinwiddie's like production has been dropping in recent years, but if you had to throw him in a game, wouldn't be the worst thing. Mason Plumlee, again, another vet to have off the bench. And look, you needed some sort of big man. Mason Plumlee can still do some big man things. He's still a very good rebounder. He'll block a couple shots for you. Don't expect him to do much else, though. And honestly, not a bad passer at all. It's not like that skill really ever goes away. So there you go. Good job bringing in a couple vets. Mason Plumlee will probably get more burn than you maybe want him to, but you need to because you need bigs out on the court. And then you got Pat Connaughton. You got paid to take him because the Bucks need to shed some salary space. I'd be shocked if he made the full-time roster. His contract is guaranteed, but I think you just maybe release him and pay him because if you're doing some quick math here, you'll be like, AVC, 5 guys left and 8 joined. That's 3 too many on the roster. You're right. The Hornets have the most people on their roster right now out of anybody, so they got to make some roster decisions. But with all that being said, let's go take a look at the rest of that roster. That brings us back to the roster breakdown tab. If you've been watching my channel for any amount of time, you're really used to this tab because we use it in a lot of different videos and series because it just does a good job of kind of showing a team situation in its entirety. The first thing I'll draw your attention to is like the roster breakdown here with player salaries and statistics and stuff. As you'll see, they got way too many people on the roster. Then you have a team salary cap breakdown here. You have a draft pick look here so we can take a look at the assets they've got. And then the thing that nobody ever complains about, there's been a lot less people complaining about it ever since I've been calling it out in every video, but the depth chart. But we all know fucking Billy's gonna come out of somewhere and be like, AVC, I don't even know what the fuck he'd complain about with this one. I don't want to start Colin Sexton. Maybe. I don't fucking know. I don't know. They always complain about something with my depth chart. It doesn't fucking matter. They're gonna be like, he's not a shooting guard. He's a small forward. Oh my fucking God, Billy. I didn't know. Oh shit, because that fucking matters. It doesn't. Shut the fuck up. Oh man, I'm dead. But anyway, we always like to start off with the roster breakdown, and there's a lot of people to get through, so let's start talking about them. First one, LaMelo Ball. This guy, right? LaMelo Ball, the prodigy Ball brother. He's extremely talented, right? We all know that this kid's really talented, like enormous point guard with incredible vision, extreme creativity. Dude's literally playing like street ball out there. One of the most entertaining players we got in basketball. You'll notice here, offense really high, defense really low. And I should probably explain this stuff because I should in every video. But AVC, what are these numbers right here? They're EPM numbers. They stand for estimated plus minus. Estimated plus minus is a really, really cool statistic that we have in basketball that tells us how good somebody is at offense, defense, and then overall as a basketball player. I take those numbers and normalize them so we can get that 0 to 100 score. 0 being the worst at something in the NBA, 100 being the best at something. And as always, my little warning, because I'm the guy that owns the basketball statistics and consulting company, I need to just tell you, don't look at every stat and assume that that's just the entire story. There is so much context and other things that you need to be able to look at in order to explain why a stat is the way that it is. You need people with critical thinking skills to take a look at all of this stuff to really give you a full picture and story. So never just look at a number and assume that's it. So you'll see with LaMelo Ball, one of the best offensive players we have in basketball, one of the worst defensive players, and that's more than true. That's more than true. But even on this offensive end, we have some concerns about him. LaMelo Ball has not found an efficient way to play basketball yet in the NBA. Now, there is some context with that, right? And that's the important thing. He doesn't have a lot of good teammates out there. He just hasn't. And some of the talented teammates that he has have been like rookies and like second-year players. And then all those motherfuckers get hurt all the time. So he's kind of just out there hooping by himself, which, what is he supposed to do, right? He's going to be the only one on the scouting report. So we try to give a little bit of leeway and context to that. But more importantly, Dude's always hurt. His ankles are always just like shattered. I already know what I'm doing for my thumbnail in this one. We've been having a lot of fun with the thumbnails in these videos. The Knicks one today was a little bit simpler, but I just want to give Cat a little bit of flair. But anyway, you have real concerns about LaMelo Ball, and I personally, here's my thing. I just have character concerns with LaMelo Ball in general. I'm not trying to say the guy's a bad dude. I think there's a certain level of immaturity, though, and look, I don't like to do like the whole parasocial thing. Like, LaMelo Ball doesn't know me. I don't know him very well, but I know people that know him very well, and they tell me like, yeah, he's kind of a big kid, right? Like, he's just a really big kid, and he's kind of fucking around all the time outside the court, and so I have questions about that being kind of your guy. I really, really do. I want to still give him the chance because the talent is that high, but I think after this season, if you still have a lot of questions about him, or if the dude's still getting hurt all the time, I think you got to look to move off of LaMelo Ball. That's kind of where I'm at with him at this point. My kind of alarm in my head is going off about it. So that's kind of how I feel with it. Miles Bridges. Alrighty, Miles Bridges. This is always a fun conversation. We'll try to stay away from all the off the court basketball stuff that's always interesting with him, but Miles Bridges, pretty solid basketball season last year. We know Miles Bridges is a pretty talented basketball player all around. Also, doesn't really have an efficient part of his game, but again, context matters. He doesn't have any good basketball players around him either. We know this is a guy that's very athletic, plays off of LaMelo very well because he doesn't need the basketball, but he can sometimes create for himself a little bit. It's nothing pretty, but it can happen. I look at Miles Bridges and I go, I don't think you need this guy on your team. There's just a lot of other people in other positions that I'd rather have, and I think culturally it'd be best to move on from him. That's just my opinion on this, because look, Miles Bridges isn't going to make a huge difference for your team probably overall, so I think you should explore if you can trade him, because he's not at a bad contract at all. $25 million, that's NBA starter money. That's literally like right on the dot for starter money, and that's the kind of player that he is. So I feel like he's more than tradable. Somebody would be interested in him, and you could probably get some assets for him. So I think that's kind of where you should be with Miles Bridges as well. Already talked about Colin Sexton. Josh Green, a guy that you brought in last season. A little Energizer Bunny defensively, always running around, doing all the right things on that end of the court. We love the effort out of him. Actually shoots the three ball really well as well, so we love the 3-and-D nature of him. Didn't really finish at the rim very well last year, and mind you, this is not a guy that creates his own offense. He creates offense from others, and so when there's no LaMelo Ball, there's no Trey Mann, all of these other creators on the team were gone. His offensive game struggled tremendously, so the fact that he was still getting off the threes as well as he was an accomplishment in and of itself. Nice, valuable role player to have on the team. Grant Williams, another guy that you recently brought in via a trade, was apparently has been a great locker room presence for this group. Grant Williams, don't look at his numbers too much. He hardly played last year, and then he was out for the season. That's going to be the story of a lot of these players that we talk about. But Grant Williams, in his best roles with teams, has been a spacing forward that's a solid physical presence on a basketball court, and sometimes talks too much shit and gets burned for it. But you know what? There's worse things to have on a basketball team. Brandon Miller, one of the more interesting young players on the team, a guy that I was a pretty big fan of coming into the league. I look at him and I go, okay, the shooting, I believe it. I believe the shooting is going to be good. We want to see if he can fix some of the get to the rim issues. Can he become more of a creator? Because if you can't create any offense, your ceiling just is a little bit limited. But this is a guy that's shown he's more than capable on both ends of the court. Should have a good amount of potential, but he keeps getting hurt. We've hardly seen him play in his career so far. So again, big question marks there. Big question marks. Already talked about Con Knipple. We didn't necessarily talk about Pat Connaughton a ton in the other section of the video, so I'll just say Pat Connaughton, supposed to be a shooting specialist, can't shoot right now, and everything else about his game is just bleh. I think they just, again, we have to clear up some roster spots. I don't think there's any point in keeping Pat Connaughton on the team. I think you just release him and pay him the money or whatever. So is what it is. Trey Mann, one of my favorites around the NBA. We love that he does his little Allen Iverson impression and tries to play like him, and he's pretty good at it overall. This is a guy that's shown he can score 20 points in a basketball game at a moment's notice, but he was hurt all last season again. Oh, man, and you know the Hornets organization was pretty big on this guy because, in their pre-draft processes, they were always like, okay, how do these guys fit next to Melo, Trey, and Miller? So they're putting him in kind of the same category of that, and I don't disagree. I think this guy's a phenomenal player, and unfortunately he was a free agent this year, and he was maybe slotted to get a nice payday if he could really show his stuff again, but he got hurt, and so they got him on kind of a steal of a deal. So, like, he gets some good guaranteed money at $8 million, but if he starts to play like what he was at one point, just being like a super kind of creator off the bench, and a guy that doesn't necessarily need the basketball to do it either, great value, great value. Tajon Salon, rookie from this last season. Salon had a rough season. We knew this would probably happen. You never think that it's going to look that gross, but it did. 6'9", really athletic, pretty coordinated for his size. He's one of those guys that you're like, okay, we've seen him do a little bit of everything overseas. Comes over here. Actually, the season started out really well for him, and then it just kind of fell off. But again, everyone's injured. He's out there trying to create things for himself. He can't create for himself right now, and he's got no creators on the team. That's important context. But we knew he was going to be a project coming in. I said in last year's draft class, I'm like, hey, this is not a very good draft class, but I'm like, this guy has the highest ceiling out of all of them. I still maintain that fact completely, but we actually have to put some good basketball players around him for that to happen. Alrighty, we're going to speed through these next couple because it's really redundant. We already talked about McNeely. Daquan Jeffries, non-guaranteed deal, almost certainly not going to be on the team. There's not really one part of his game that looks good at this point, at least like at an NBA level, so sorry, Mr. Jeffries. Nick Smith Jr. I'm going to tell you kind of the same thing. I don't know if he'll make it past the roster cuts or whatever. He's kind of one of those embodiments of modern basketball player that doesn't actually know what the fuck he's doing out there, but he's pretty talented. Again, there's not really one part of his game that you look at and you're like, okay, that's pretty good. Yes, he gets hot every once in a while, but it is very every once in a while for him. Already talked about Kalkbrenner, Sion, Spencer Dinwiddie, and Mason Plumlee. The last one here is finally an interesting one. The bottom one here, Musa Diabate, I believe that's how you say it. I can't remember. I know I looked up the name pronunciation right before this video because I wanted to make sure I got it right, and I completely forgot. I am the worst with names. I remember whenever I go watch or like scout like events or whatever, I'll be able to tell you like, oh yeah, like I can look at a guy's face and be like, oh yeah, he had these couple moves to him. He could do all of this with the ball. He had these deficiencies or whatever. Can't remember their fucking names for the life of me. I don't know why. But Musa, probably going to be a starter for the team this year. A bit of an undersized center. 6'9" is not bad for an NBA center. It's not. It's just, it's on the lower quartile of size in the NBA. But this motherfucker works his ass off, man. One of the better rebounders in the NBA. Flies around the court, blocks shots, rim runs, does all that stuff. That's useful enough, man. So while we don't have a great center rotation right now, which we'll start to talk about the depth chart, we like Musa, and even though his contract is non-guaranteed, I think you have to keep him around. I think you just have to. One, just because good energy, good stuff, great culture. We love all of that stuff, but you need the big men. You need the big men. Okay, let's talk about the depth chart. The center position is whack. It's really, really whack, right? Musa, Mason Plumlee, and Kalkbrenner. That is an energy guy and two Caucasians that can't really move all that well. So it's not the greatest. It's not very. It's got to be the worst center rotation in the NBA, right? But I don't need you to do anything rash about it, right? This team is in an interesting little retooling, rebuilding state. We're not quite sure where they're going, and we could, if we need to, play like Tajon there. Grant Williams is not a great answer to it, but you could do it if you needed to. So there's some options, and I'm basically just saying don't mortgage your future to go like get a center right now. This season isn't that important. You look at the forward spot, there's a lot of interesting options here, all the way kind of through, even to like McNeely, who's a first-round pick, that it's going to be hard for him to get burned this year, and I don't think he should get burned really this year. Send him to the G League, let him develop there, but you got a lot of options there, and you have a ton of guards right now between Sexton, LaMelo, Trey Mann. All guys that we'd like to have with the basketball a decent amount. Con Knipple, want to get him on the court and everything. Some of you are going to be like, AVC. This is where the depth chart thing comes in. He was the 4th overall pick. I need to start him, AVC. I need to feel like my team didn't do something fucking stupid. I'm not saying they did something fucking stupid, Billy. Calm the fuck down, you illiterate little shit. Check on your Nana for me. But let's just let him develop. let him chill. I'd like to see him kind of be with that first 5 by the end of the year, but you're not telling me that Colin Knipple's better than Colin Sexton right now. You just not. But then they come in like, AVC, did you see him at Summer League? Oh, wow, Billy, you think Summer League's fucking real shit too? Good for you, man. And what it must be like to be that fucking stupid. I'm so glad these videos can't get like demonetized for all my swearing anymore. YouTube kind of eased up on that. I can say whatever the hell I want, and if you got a problem with it, move on to another video, because I don't care that much. But anyway, kind of an interesting depth chart situation, but again, they're just taking players, collecting assets. I can get behind it. Let's go take a look at this team's salary cap position. If you're new to my videos or just don't understand how the NBA salary cap works, here's a quick breakdown. There's 4 levels to it. First one, the cap line itself. Once you cross that one, this number will show a 0, so this team has gone over the cap line. You can only re-sign your own players to anything more than a minimum contract. There are exceptions to that rule, but that's the basics behind it. The luxury tax line, that's the scary one. Once you cross that, your team gets way more expensive to just exist. And the more years you spend in it, the more and more it kind of builds up and compounds to the point where you become the Celtics or the Heat, and you have to sell off some of your better players in order to just exist as a business, right? This team's $11.5 million away from that. That's a good spot to be in right now. You could take in a little bit more salary if you needed to, but your team's not going to be too expensive. We don't want to be in the luxury tax right now. Then you have the first and second aprons. These are newer things that the NBA added to kind of, one, stop star players from moving, but also bring a little bit more competitiveness around the NBA. If you want to see all the implications behind these, you can pause the video now and read them all because I've got them on the screen. But basically what you need to know is as you go deeper into these aprons, the NBA just starts to choke you out more and more and more. They say you can't sign these players, you can't use these exceptions, you can't trade for these guys, you can't make moves like this. Up until the point where they kind of just hard cap you and they say, hey, this is the team you're stuck with unless you just want to get worse. So if you're going to be in these aprons, you better be a damn good basketball team. We are far away from those right now. That's good. Draft pick wise and asset wise, I told you this team's been doing a good job, man. I couldn't even fit all the draft picks that they've accumulated on here. As far as first round picks, it's not like an extreme depth pool, but next year you could have, or like 2 years from now, you could have a couple draft picks coming your way, which is nice if you decide to kind of do like a soft reset and kind of start the rebuild over again with your new regime. I think you're in a pretty good position to actually go and start that, but you've been collecting like all these second round picks, which is really, really good. We've only got a couple picks going into next year, which I think is totally fine. It's going to be an evaluation year for this team, and I think you're doing a good thing. Keep taking on bad contracts, keep taking on draft picks, and just remember, every once in a while, you got to package some of these second round picks and kind of push them down the line because you can never use them all right away. But anyway, with all that being said, we want to move on to the trade portion of this video where we start to kind of look at this team and figure out some moves that we could make this year. And again, a lot of the moves that are going to be made for this team this year are dependent, right? If this team is rolling and they're playing pretty well this year, I'd say, okay, let's hold off. Let's not just go and do anything like rash, right? And I'm saying rolling like maybe they're staying close to 500. Maybe we think we can make a play in or something. I'd be curious about that. But if we're just committed to a rebuild already, then it's like, okay, we'll wait for teams to call us. We'll take on some bad contracts and stuff, take on some more draft picks. Cool. So there's a lot that'll kind of depend on how the season's going to say, hey, what moves should we make? But I'll give you guys a couple suggestions. Alrighty, that brings us back here to Fanspo. Fanspo, for those of you that don't know, really, really cool website that lets you do all these different like mock trades, mock drafts, like big board creations. It's awesome. It's really, really cool. I'm not sponsored. I just love the website, but here's the problem with the website. The website's free, which means that the people that run it probably don't watch it as close as maybe we would like as like fans of it, right? Because they don't have necessarily a financial incentive to do so. So they don't keep their trade machine up to date. We check every video to see if it's changed, but like they don't have the rookies on here, so all the numbers are off. And so this is just our plea to fans, but we're not shitting on them. Like, hey, can you go update your trade machine? We'd love to use your video and show off your website or whatever if you ever want to sponsor. I will sponsor the shit out of you because this website that you guys made is awesome. But yeah, it'd be great if you could update it. But instead, we're going to use SpotTrack. SpotTrack's got a beta machine or a beta trade machine that you can use right now. It's not as good as Fanspo, but at least they keep all their data up and fresh. They like update things in real time, which is great. You can also like pay for their stuff, and that's kind of why. But anyway, let's start talking trades. So let's identify tradable people this year. I talked about Miles Bridges. It's just a guy I don't think you need probably regardless with this group, so we're going to put his money up here. Colin Sexton, We don't need him on this team, and he's on the last year of his contract, so if he just runs out, great, but I have to imagine somebody's going to want, like, that offensive firepower or whatever. We're definitely going to find a way to try to trade him to Orlando in this video somehow, some way. Josh Green, you could. You very well could. I'm not mad if you want to keep him. Grant Williams, you could. You totally could. I'm just going to assume nobody's going to want Pat Connaughton, most likely, so I'm just going to assume he's not going to be on the team. Otherwise, like, those are kind of the guys right there that I'd consider moving. So there's $71 million that you can move there in total. I think the most likely one to be moved is a Colin Sexton. Again, they just don't need another guard with this group. You really don't. It would open up space for Con and Trey to get a little bit more burn and stuff if we ended up moving him. Again, the reason we have him is a great reason. You just got paid to take a better basketball player, but let's try to find a way to move him, right? And instantly, I just think the Orlando Magic have all the defense in the world, and they just need more offensive help and somebody that can create. Oh, Colin Sexton would be a great, let's just give it a fucking shot this year and see what happens. So let's just try to make this happen, right? Let's try to make this happen. So Colin Sexton, let's turn on trade deadline mode to make sure all the restrictions are off. Colin Sexton, you go over there to Orlando. They have him at 18.9 million. I have him at 19.1. Interesting. Can I get a check on that? I'm probably wrong somehow. Well, it means my data scrape was wrong. But anyway, it doesn't matter. We can use it this way. Who are they sending in return? Here is the question. Could we steal a center from you? Could we possibly steal a center from you? Can we have Goga? I would love to have Goga on this team. I'd love to just give him more burn, right? So, okay, obviously we need to take back like a little bit more money. This is where we definitely go to, where is he? Jet Howard. We'll take Jet Howard back. Interesting young guy or whatever. We're still short by $4 million. Holy shit. Okay, so let's not do Jet Howard. Let's remove that. Let's do Tyus Jones instead. Are we still going to be... We're still a little bit short. Okay, so what other guys could we flip? Like, we could let's take back a Jet Howard for now, but now we got to give some other shit back, right? Because Colin Sexton's not worth all this. He's only on a 1-year deal anyway. What else could we give you? That's the $1 million question here. You're not going to want a Miles Bridges. There's not enough space for that to happen. This can't be a super expensive player either. That's where this becomes a little bit tricky, and we probably have to bring a third team into this, don't we? And this is my thing with this trade machine. You can't just like add new shit and then you have to start all over. So let's do the typical thing and bring in the Brooklyn Nets, which, by the way, they've started to finally shave down their roster a little bit. I'm curious if no, they have. They're not updating that quickly. Keon Johnson was just cut like maybe 20 minutes ago or something like that, so it's not that quick, but let's do this again. So we want back Goga. That's what we would like to do. Or no, we want Goga coming back to us because we'd like a big man on the team. It'd be nice to have a big man. That'd be cool. We're sending out Colin Sexton to Orlando. We more so want like some draft capital or something like that. So let's just say it's like a 2nd-round pick or something. We got a 2nd-round pick to take him. We get back one more to ship him somewhere else and for housing him for a couple months. So we make that happen. But Orlando, they need to send somebody out still. Did they send out a Jonathan Isaac financially to make that happen? You just don't need Jonathan Isaac. You really don't. I know Magic fans kind of love him, but if we shipped him off to Brooklyn, where he can go sell his shoe there as much as he wants, kind of okay with that. Okay, what is Brooklyn doing in all of this? I don't actually know. Do they have to send cash to someone? Let's just kind of mock this out really quick. Does this make the trade go through? Brooklyn needs to send something to Charlotte. Okay, I don't know why they have to send something to Charlotte necessarily. Okay, what's the issue? So the Nets need to shed some salary somewhere, right? That's too much money for them to take on. So we need to send somebody else out. Is it Terrence Mann? We can take on Terrence Mann. Probably, right? They don't need Terrence Mann. And Terrence Mann's not all that valuable anyway, so we'll take him back, because why the fuck not, I guess? Sure, cool. Something like this could be a thing. We get back a center. We get Terrence Mann, who, again, maybe you don't necessarily want that. Maybe we want somebody on a shorter-term contract or something. Let me just see if I can't finesse that a little bit. Let's turn this back on. And who are we Who are we taking instead? Who are we taking instead? Is it as simple as just taking on like a Derek Whitehead or something? I doubt it. So it's still too much. It's got to be someone more expensive. Could it be a Kobe Buffkin? We take him back and just like buy him out or something? Nope, still too much. That's annoying. Zaire. We'll take him back. Zaire's like maybe a little bit more valuable, but damn, it really does have to be like someone like that expensive, unfortunately. So, well, that's annoying. So maybe it does have to be like a Terrence Mann or something. But that's just one potential move there. As a way for us to get a big, we get like a pick for Colin Sexton or something. Maybe we flip these guys in the offseason again or something. I don't know. Just an idea. Okay. Miles Bridges. Who could take on a Miles Bridges? Who needs a Miles Bridges is a more important question. Let's take a look through some teams and say, like, okay, which of these teams probably has to be a good team? It could be a Miami Heat. The Miami Heat might want a player like that potentially. We could help them out here. We could help them out here. They've been trying to trade Terry Rozier for a fucking minute. And look, Hornets fans, just calm the fuck down for a little bit. Like, if you're really wanting Miles Bridges that bad, like, you just don't need him. You just don't need him on the squad. He's not going to help you that much anyway, and you have other people at that position. I know we have a lot of guards. Oh, I only clicked the Miami Heat. That's why this isn't working. Miami Heat and Charlotte Hornets. There we go. So they've been trying to trade Terry Rozier for forever. They're desperate, and they're getting to the point where they might have to even just buy him out. We'll send you back Miles Bridges so you can actually save just a little bit of money. Why does this fail? Miami Heat is hard capped and over the first apron. How is that even possible? Does he have like a trade kicker or something? Allowable incoming cap difference. How does that make sense? They're taking back less money. There must be like a kicker on there or something like that. I don't understand. Okay, Miami, you can send us somebody else as well. We really don't give a fuck. If we're being honest, you can send us Keyshot as well, and we'll cut him for you or something. But y'all gotta give us some shit. Y'all gotta give us some shit. Maybe give us like a protected like first round pick or something like that. I don't know. So something like that in order to make it happen, because we take back all your bullshit and you get like a very competent NBA player, whereas you were just gonna have nothing. Maybe a potential option. Do I want to do any others? No, I don't feel like I need to trade these two if I don't have to. I don't need to trade like any of these guys if I don't have to, but just some ideas, right? Just some ideas. If people come calling about them, maybe those are some moves that could be made. But with all that being said, let's move forward to the rotations part of the video. Alrighty, rotation question mark. I always put the question mark here just because, look, you never know completely what these are going to be. I'm not in the training camps. I'm not in the practices and everything, and that's a lot of where these lineups are kind of put together. Now, obviously, if LaMelo has a bad training camp, he's not going to not start and play a lot of minutes. Some people have earned that right more than others, but it's just my idea for how I think kind of the rotation should look this season. And obviously, these are average minutes. Sometimes LaMelo will play 40, sometimes he'll play 20, but this is kind of the average of what I'm thinking. We've also got some EPM numbers over here. These are just these numbers here, but we've now weighted them by minutes. And obviously, if you're a rookie or whatever and you have no EPM numbers, then it's not going to add to the score. You're an unpredictable player, so it kind of lessens the score a little bit or lowers the score. Let's talk about it. Our starting five of LaMelo, Colin Sexton, Brandon Miller, Miles Bridges, and Musa here. We've got both LaMelo and Brandon Miller playing kind of the most minutes on the team. They're the most important kind of developmental pieces for this group. We got Colin Sexton playing quite a few minutes because he's a very good basketball player for us, but I don't want him taking up like an enormous chunk of time because I still want to get some of the other more long-term developmental pieces out there. Miles Bridges, obviously a very good contributor. We want him out there. Musa playing more so role player minutes, just because, look, we're kind of going to have to do center by committee type shit with this team. We do have Grant Williams and Trey Mann playing starter level minutes on this group. I think they're, if you look at the rest of the roster, they're probably two guys that should be out there about that much, but they are both coming off of major injuries, so we'll see if that's even possible. Yeah, Khan playing about the same minutes as Josh Green here. We're kind of going to easily work both of them in with the hope that Khan Kanipa will be more so up here by the end of the season. That'd be great. Well, honestly, probably regardless at the end of the season, this team probably won't be the greatest, so you'll just want to ramp up his minutes anyway, just for the minutes in and of itself. But Josh Green, very nice role player, he'll be there. Mason Plumlee will play some sparing center minutes here, and you'll notice our 2 centers here only make up 35 of the needed like 48 center minutes. I am going to play like Grant Williams there sometimes. I can't justify having these 2 out on the basketball court that much right now. I just can't. Some notable people kind of on the bench right now, mostly just Tajon Salon, lottery pick from last year. I think he's going to have to prove himself if he wants to kind of crack this rotation. But maybe you want to play him over Plumlee or something. I don't know. That's just the ideas that I have for the rotation right now. Then we have lineups. This is where I freeball things a little bit and come up with 3 lineups that I think would be interesting to run for various reasons. The first one, defense. Just looking at this team, defense is a struggle. So how can we get a defensive rotation out there? Because you need one. Because when you're playing basketball, the chess behind like rotations and lineups and stuff is if you get yourself out to like a solid lead at some point in the game, you want to slow the game down so that, and sometimes at least, it's never an absolute, but sometimes you want to slow the game down because if you shrink the amount of possessions your opponent gets, the less chance they have of coming back. And in order to do that, you need to put a solid defensive group out there that can kind of slow the pace down. So that's why I've got Josh Green out there, good defensive player. Brandon Miller has proven himself to be a solid defensive player so far, along with Miles Bridges. Musa is our best defensive center by far. Honestly, just good defensive center in general. I've got Colin Sexton out there as well. We said he's a bad defensive player, and if we take this out, our defensive number shoots up even more. The dude works his ass off, though, so at the very least, him and Josh Green could be switching everything. I'd rather just have the effort than nothing else. Next, LaMelo in space. We need to try to get more out of LaMelo. We really do. We need to get some efficiency in him, so I just have to imagine with space and people that can play with a little bit of pace, we can get there. I feel bad not putting a lob threat out there, but let's just see what he can do if he's got a bunch of space to operate in, despite this being a really bad defensive team. We just got to see LaMelo put it together offensively first. So I'm playing him with Trey Mann, who has shown that he can play off LaMelo before and doesn't need the ball. Putting Khan out there, should be a good shooter. Putting Brandon Miller in more of a forward position with Grant at the center. A lot of shooting out there, a lot of spacing, hopefully a lot of switchability. Maybe he can play with a little bit of pace with this group, but more importantly, just the space for LaMelo. And then finally, Miller growth. I'm trying to grow Brandon Miller, right? I firmly believe he can work without the basketball. He can get open. Maybe he can cut to the hoop at points, but let's turn him into more of a playmaker. Let's see if that's a skill set we can start to develop, right? I want to see how far we can go with them. So I got Trey out there that can lead this group ball handling wise as needed. I've also got Josh Green out there who can be just a good spacing guy for the group. Brandon Miller, want him with the ball a little bit more. And then we got Grant and Mason out here as just 2 more so vets that will be in the right spaces so that we can kind of start to teach Brandon like, hey, this is how you make the reads. This is where you need to be. So those are just my ideas that for lineups I want to see this year. But with all that being said, let's move on to the standings prediction where I tell you where I think the Hornets are going to finish this year. Alrighty, y'all. Y'all know how this works. I'm going to press this button right here, and the Hornets are going to appear somewhere in this group, basically wherever I think that they're going to be. We started to fill in a decent amount of these teams already, but where are the Hornets going to be? Drum roll, please. Blah, blah, blah. I don't give a shit. Let's just click it. Yeah, they're the 13th seed. I think everybody knows these are probably going to be the 3 worst teams in the East. This team is just not that great, and we're not just saying that because it's a poor center rotation. But even just like a lot of their best players are young, kind of unproven guys that haven't been that efficient up to this point, and all these players just get hurt all the time. So we have to keep that in mind as well. And yes, injuries can happen with every team, but guess what, you dumb? Like, I've got data that says these guys get hurt more than the average people. So that's definitely something I'm going to factor in. So yeah, I've got the Hornets as the 13 seed down here. That fills out the bottom 5 teams for our Eastern Conference this year. But alrighty, with all that being said, this is where I pass it off to you guys. Let me know what you think of the Hornets down in the comment section below. You guys know I love the comments. As much as I make fun of them, I do love to read them and have great basketball conversations. So go leave me a comment down below, like and share the video, and let's move on to the final portion, the comments of the video. Alrighty, y'all. Comments of the video are coming from our season preview for the Pacers here. Nice little thumbnail of Tyrese Halliburton just getting out of surgery. I'm having a lot of fun making these thumbnails. I don't know. I just, like I said, there's no one really watching these outside of my core audience or anything at this time of the year anyway, so I'm just trying to have some fun with them. But yeah, we got a couple good comments in this one. First one from Liam, who's a frequent commenter on the channel, who said the Pacers represent everything we like and hate about basketball. They're well coached. They play a style that fits their players. They're not all like superstars. They're an underdog, but critical injuries in critical times. Yeah, it sucks. It really does. I thought that was well said. We got Clayton Landon here that said, gotta leave a like for the thumbnail alone. Thank you. Willie Andy Walker said, yo, thank you for your service. I miss basketball. I miss basketball a lot too, man. I can't wait for it to get started. Vitor here asked a question. AVC, how do you feel about the possibility of playing TJ McConnell at the 1, Nemhard at the 2, and Neesmith at the 3 as a starting lineup? To which I responded with, well, I'm open to a lot of ideas. As with any ideas, though, I'll ask why. If you ask an idea, or if you ask my opinion on something, tell me why you think this. Because, like, I don't know, maybe. That's not where I would go instantly, obviously, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it. But yeah, no, as always, great conversations happening in the comments section below. If you want to have more great basketball conversations, go join the Discord. Link is here in the description. It's also how you get access to this fun little spreadsheet right here. As a reminder, I'm updating it like every single day as I kind of move throughout these teams or whatever, so just check back and get up-to-date versions as you need it. But anyway, I appreciate you guys as always. Please like, subscribe, follow, share these videos with your Nana. Let her know I said hello. It really helps out the channel and everything. But as always, I appreciate you guys. You made it through the middle of the week. Let's keep pushing. Let's keep pushing. But all right, we'll talk to you guys later. Thanks so much.